Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back. We are talking about psychology and English and my life as a double major, my journey toward becoming a double major and beyond. So before the break, I asked you all, when it comes to psychology, what are the first things that come to mind? Okay, so let me remind you all again, using English, what psychology is. So psychology refers to the systematic and scientific study of human behavior and mental processes. So that is the definition. Okay, so I'll ask you in the questions. Okay? That's the definition that you should look for. And I think there are a few students who responded. There are 3 students who responded. So thank you, Xiaoqing, Yi Zhen, and Tina Wang. So thank you to the 3 of you for responding to my questions. And it's very interesting to me what you've said. Xiaoqing, you said what comes to your mind is criminal minds. Criminal minds. And so I've taken the liberty to find that IMDb page of Criminal Minds. So, Joe, can you help me with that? It's one of the tabs, the IMDb tab, up here. 在上面那个分页. Okay, very good. So this is Criminal Minds. It is actually quite an old television series. It's still running after, I believe, 12 seasons. After 12 seasons, I started watching when I was in senior high school, and it is about a group of FBI agents, okay, and they are in the FBI, what they call the BAU, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, and they track down criminals. Most commonly, they track down serial killers, okay, and so if you are interested, I think that's what Xiaoqing is referring to. It's my favorite television series. If I could only choose one, I would choose Criminal Minds. There are some other wonderful series about psychology that you can watch. Some are very short. Lie to Me. There are only 3 seasons, so you can watch that. But Criminal Minds is still going after 12 years. So yes, if you think about psychology and you think of Criminal Minds, that is a good association to make. Okay, very good. So can we go back to the Facebook fan page? Thank you. Yes. Also, Yi Zhen, you think of, when it comes to psychology, I think of criminal psychology. Very good. Indeed, an important branch of psychology is criminal psychology. So what makes a criminal mind? There are all kinds of crimes, right? And all kinds of crimes. It doesn't necessarily just mean murder, physical abuse, and including, yeah, you can imagine, problems in society. A lot of it can be traced back to mental illness and criminal psychology. I never took criminal psychology as a course. It's offered in our department as an elective. And you have to read a lot of English in that course, I understand. You have to read papers and a textbook. But yes, it's an excellent observation, Yi Zhen. Tina says, when it comes to psychology, a psychiatrist comes to mind. So let me use this opportunity to give you all a little knowledge here. So when we talk about psychiatrist, in Taiwan, we have to say 精神科医师. Normally there is a term that we use in Taiwan, 心理医师, but that doesn't exist officially. That's not a term we have here in Taiwan. We say 精神科医师或者是心理师. 心理师分2种, okay, 临床还有咨商. Okay, 临床心理师, 咨商心理师. So in Taiwan, we don't have this official job title, 心理医师. So 精神科医师, 临床心理师, 咨商心理师. Okay? So yes, very good. Psychiatrist. And very interestingly, Xiaoqing has also responded with a name here, Hannibal Lecter. Now, I think it's very poetic. Hannibal Lecter was one of the first films I watched when I was a student about to become a psychology student. So one of our crew members, the wonderful Iris, mentioned, and you're listening, right, Iris? So you like Hannibal, the American series, is it American?
Yes.
American series, right, called Hannibal. And Hannibal Lecter is a psychiatrist, right? He is, my understanding of the original story is that he was a psychiatrist, but he's also a criminal. Okay? He is a psychiatrist and also a criminal. The oldest version, the oldest story is The Silence of the Lambs. The Silence of the Lambs, the film, 沉默的羔羊, played by Anthony Hopkins, Jodie Foster. If you have not watched that film yet, I highly encourage you to go watch it. Okay, Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs, and he is a cannibal, Hannibal the cannibal. He eats human flesh, but he is a brilliant doctor. So what does that mean? What does that tell us about human psychology? I think that's a good question to think about. So as a double major and later as a student in graduate school, as a grad student in the English department, I studied English during for my master's. There are a few things that have given me some intersections, some overlap in my career. So first, I've learned that my English reading skills, that I developed, that I have improved when I was a student in the English department. They later benefited me when I was studying very difficult psychology textbooks. And oftentimes this is true. Last week, Professor Lin said the same thing. A skill that you can develop with good English is strong learning skills, the skill to find knowledge by yourself and to use English knowledge to your benefit. If you don't have strong English skills, you are limited very often to what is written in Chinese or what is translated. And it's not as good as the first-hand knowledge that you get that was originally written in English. If you are good at listening to English, if you are good at, in general, you can watch Criminal Minds and The Silence of the Lambs and understand what it has to say in English. So that's one way it's benefited me, working back, my English skills, helping my psychology. I also got my first editing job because of my English skills in psychology. So when I was still an undergraduate student, one of my professors in clinical psychology, she asked me to help her as the English assistant or the English editing assistant for a journal, for a journal called Research in Applied Psychology, which is actually headed very close, it's headed downstairs, headed in the psychology department. We're here in Sensibility. And so what I'd like to tell you all is you will have many more opportunities in your chosen field if you have strong English skills. And this certainly worked for me. I became the English assistant, and a few years later, after I got my degree, I've been promoted to become the English editor. So that is something for you to think about. If you are interested in working with language, every field needs strong translators and editors. And that was my first editing job. And I've kept this position for many years now. Okay, so does anyone else want to answer? Are there any more questions so far? I don't think so, right? Nobody? Is there anyone? Oh, there are 6 people watching. Okay, now I can see for myself. Thank you, 6 people. 6 people for watching. Okay, so I'd like to talk about something else. This is kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah, this is kind of me with the anyway. Anyway, it's like being in an elevator with mirrors on both sides. Yeah. Okay, but I want to talk a little bit about how being a good psychology student helped me become a better a student of English. In the English department, there are different things you can study. And it's helped me in the three big domains, the three largest domains of the English department I benefited in my life. So first, in the English department, we have to study literature. Now you might think, okay, so psychology and literature, how do these things go together? One of the things is that in literature you need to be able to be empathetic. You need to walk into the shoes of different characters in literature. You need to walk into the positions of the people in novels, in short stories, in drama. And because of my skills that I developed in psychology, understanding how to empathize with others, I was able, I still think I am, I'm pretty good at relating to characters in literature and understanding their thought process, understanding them as people and how they are depicted. And so that's something you can think about. If your work involves a lot of readings, a lot of story, a lot of narrative. If you are interested in film, for instance, or criminal psychology, you can always study some psychology, study some English, and it will help you improve as a person. You understand people better. The second big domain, not literature, the second big domain is teaching. A good number of students here in the English department, we become teachers on different levels. We become cram school teachers, we become school teachers, I became now a university teacher. And every day I use the skills that I learned in psychology, my skills as a communicator, to empathize with students and to advise my students. And so people often think that psychology is very far away from me, but connecting with people, understanding what they're going through, understanding what they need, these are important skills that you can develop in the world of psychology, and that has benefited me greatly. The last thing, and this is very important if you are a science student. I hope there are some of you out there who might be science students. One thing that we study in the English department is linguistics, the study of language, and this is where it all comes together. Linguistics is also a science, it's a social science, but it can also be a natural science. You put it together with the things you learn in psychology. I've learned the theories of language acquisition. I've learned those better because of my training in psychology. I've learned psycholinguistics and discourse analysis. And I've studied these better because of my training in psychology. And so you come together, there are things that you normally wouldn't think that go together, but came together for me in my career. So students out there, I think hopefully I've shared with you a little bit more about how my double major has worked for me. Hopefully you now know a little bit more about me. I'd like to ask you all now a question. All of you watching, there are 7 people watching. 9 people watching. 9 people watching. Thank you so much. Here's my question for you. So what do you want to accomplish with your English? What do you want to be able to do with your English skills? A lot of times I ask students this question and they think, I don't know. 毕业门槛。我说, I don't know. 想跟外国人讲话. Why would you want to do that? 你身边有外国人吗? Right? Why do you want to talk to foreigners? That's a very vague, very, very vague goal. So I'm asking you all to ask yourself. This is the trademark of a good psychologist. Ask yourself. Okay? I encourage you to think about it and ask yourself, what do you want to do with English? In the coming weeks, we will talk about English and science, natural science. We'll talk about English and travel writing, media writing. We'll talk about English and comic books. We'll talk about English and YouTube. etc. But ask yourself today, all of you, since it's just us, what do you want to use English to achieve? Or what do you want to achieve, and how will English help you to do it? One last thing. When it comes to psychology, there are a lot of domains, there are a lot of branches, there are a lot of different subfields. Like I mentioned, learning and pedagogy, memory, basic things like attention or emotion, biology, brain function, genetics, development, moral development, sensual development, etc. Social psychology, and of course, abnormal psychology, so mental illness, depression, attention, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's disease, all sorts of wonderful things. And these domains are split, and it's the same thing for English skills, I've learned. When people say, oh, 我的英文不好, it's a very vague statement, actually, when they say my English is not good. Normally, you'll have a stronger skill and some weaker skills. Maybe you are a very good English reader. Maybe you are good at writing. But maybe you are not so confident in speaking. Or the reverse, you could be a good speaker, but you're not that good at reading. So ask yourself also, what is your English skill set? What is your profile of English skills? And ask yourself where you need to improve. I welcome any of you to write in your comments. I will answer whatever you put up. But that's the basic idea that I want to say, which is, in my experience, two big things. The skill sets come together to improve each other. They are mutually beneficial. And at the same time, you sort of understand, you conceptualize the skills as a set of tools that you can use